Hi guys, I just spent 3 days editing a video. I was very proud of that video and it took a lot of effort, and I was in my post-edit euphoria like I normally am when I've done a lot of time on a video. Then I saw this post from Behavior, and then I read it.
What? 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 What?
Now here's a couple of warnings for this video, guys. The calm before the storm, if you will. 1. This won't be edited because quite frankly, I can't be fucked editing something so fucking stupid. 2. If you have kids in the room, wear headphones. 3. I'm heavily biased against this because this update has murdered Sadako. We'll get onto that one in a little bit. We're not going to be talking about the killer changes. I need to play with them and test them, and quite frankly, they could give every single killer a tactical nuke in their kit and it wouldn't offset the rest of the changes that I've just read. So we're going to be focusing on the slugging and tunneling ones. We're going to start this video off with a quote from Olmo, who was a former Behavior employee who dealt with balancing. Now, when he left, he did a Reddit AMA, and he said in that other ASIM games, VHS in particular, failed in large part because the monster couldn't tunnel or camp. This meant that nobody wanted to play killer, so they all quit. Since Olmo has left Behavior, they have been on a never-ending crusade to do exactly what their former balance team member said killed every other ASIM game, which is removing these strategies. Just thought I'd let that one simmer for a little bit. Now let's get on to the changes, shall we? Slugging reduction update. If a survivor is left in the dying state for a total of 90 seconds during a match, they gain the ability to pick themselves up after fully recovering. Added the option to enable or disable this mechanic in custom games. Perks that enable you to recover from the dying state like Boon Exponential will continue to function as before, without needing to meet this requirement. Gradually increases crawling speed for survivors who are left in the dying state. Added the ability for survivors to recover while crawling. Recovery now occurs passively with no need to hold a button, so now they have base kit tenacity completely for free. First, we'll start with the removal of it in custom games. It's almost like they know this mechanic is so game-breakingly broken that they had to have a mechanic to disable it in custom games, otherwise comp DBD would end up with every match being survivors going perkless, because that's the only way to balance this fucking mechanic. Not only this, but it's even worse than you think, because that 90 seconds that you wait before you can pick yourself up is a one-time thing. Once that 90 seconds is up, they then have permanent unbreakable for the rest of the trial. The sheer number of people that I see trying to justify this mechanic blows my fucking mind. Morons on the forums, left and right, trying to justify it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Hey guys, Future JC here. I recorded this yesterday, and as you can hear, it was about to start getting heated. I ruined my mood for the whole day and then ruined my voice, as you can hear. So I'm going to try and calm it down and redo the rest in a bit more of a calm manner, because I ended up like this. And now they've made it so there is literally no counterplay to it. Oh my fucking god, the stupidity of these dev teams and the stupidity of morons on the forums knows no bounds. It's incredible.
They don't need to be picked up because the wiggle progress doesn't reset. It doesn't reset, guys. It doesn't fucking reset, which means that they can just leave them on the floor and let them pick themselves up.
So, before we turn into Danny G,
I just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah?
so let's do this more logically and explain why these changes show the devs are completely inept. When you slug someone, the reason it builds pressure is because it forces other survivors to get off generators to run across the map to pick you up. That's where the pressure is being built. When the survivor is going to pick themselves up eventually, there is no reason to leave your generator to pick them up, unless they are literally next to you, but they also have base kit tenacity. So, not only will they pick themselves up eventually, but you can start crawling to a teammate on a generator and have them immediately grab you without them ever having to leave the generator, which means you've not built any fucking pressure because they've not had to stop doing their objective to pick up the downed survivor. The only pressure you gain is someone on the floor, which isn't good. Let's think about it like being on a hook, okay? The pressure built from being on a hook is that eventually you're going to go second stage, making you an easy tunnel out, or you're going to literally die. This forces the survivor to get off their fat asses from the generators to go get the unhook. So now 2 people are off generators. That's your pressure as killer, and then you can pressure the hook or whatever. Now, imagine if just as you were about to go second stage, you could just self-unhook yourself. Well, now there's there's no reason for a survivor to manually unhook the survivor because it's going to happen eventually with no downside. You might as well just sit on the generators and push your objective. Then imagine if on top of this, you could also move on the hook and like teleport to closer hook and eventually make your way to a survivor who is on a generator. Now that person can either leave you on the hook and then you're going to eventually self-unhook anyway, or they can get off the gen for a few seconds, unhook you, and then have max efficiency again. It would completely annihilate hooking as a pressure tool. This is literally what this anti-slug mechanic is doing. You've completely annihilated why the killer builds pressure by slugging. This isn't even getting into how insanely abusable this is in a Swift. Look at this clip. Now, I can't make it to another hook here if I drop. Not only this, but wiggle progress doesn't reset. So if I pick them up, they're just going to immediately wiggle out. So I physically can't hook this person, and now I have a choice. Keep them slugged and then give them free unbreakable for the rest of the trial, or force them to wiggle so they don't get free unbreakable. There is literally no winning, it's lose-lose. And this is where dipshits like this one and the other 16 who upvoted them show their complete ineptitude because they've never played a match of killer in their life and seemingly don't understand the wiggle progress doesn't reset. Let's quickly go through it. So the person who was initially talking was given some examples why this is fucking stupid. There is only one hook in range and it's currently broken because of a sacrifice or breakdown perk. And then the person says, in that scenario, wouldn't you be dropping the survivor and chasing someone else anyway? If you're waiting out the hook respawning instead, how often does that take 90 seconds? The point is, if you drop the survivor and have to chase someone away, they're going to pick themselves up after 90 seconds anyway, which means that you're not building any pressure from that person being on the floor. Not only this, but this is a total of 90 seconds. It isn't 90 seconds in one sitting. So if you do this over and over and over and over and over and over and over, like a lot of sabotage Swifts do, eventually they're going to hit that 90 seconds, which means they're going to get their free unbreakable, which means they have infinite unbreakable for the entire trial and you can't do anything about it. Number 2, a survivor sabotaged a hook while the killer was carrying a survivor and they have too much wiggle progress to hook. The exact scenario I just said. Let's see what they said about this. Same as above. You'd be dropping that survivor and chasing the sabotage user anyway. In most scenarios, the survivor you dropped is getting picked up regardless.
They're getting picked up regardless at the moment because they're forced to, because they're not going to get up on their own eventually. That's where the pressure's built. When they get up on their own eventually, what's the fucking point in picking them up? There's no point. It doesn't exist as a mechanic, you fucking idiot.
Number 3, a survivor is under a dropped pallet and their teammate keep threatening the area and the killer needs to chase them away. This doesn't take 90 seconds. It's additive 90 seconds. It's an additive 90 seconds, guys. It doesn't have to be in one sitting. Same as number 3, but it involves flashlights or flashbangs. Same thing. Additives. Some places are literal hook dead zones. This is the same as the first 2, guys. It's the same as the first 2. If someone crawls into a hook dead zone so you physically can't hook them, it doesn't matter that they're eventually going to be able to pick themselves up. And there is no reason for a survivor to go pick up that person because they're going to be doing it forever for the rest of the trial for free. That's the whole fucking problem, meaning there is now no longer any counterplay whatsoever to complete hook dead zones. So thank you.
You're a fucking idiot.
So much for me staying calm, I guess. So, the anti-slug is disgustingly abusable and renders slugging almost entirely useless because behavior don't understand why slugging builds pressure, and seemingly neither do half of the fucking forum users. Let's get on to the anti-tunnel and try and do it quickly, shall we? So, when a survivor is hooked, their hook status is hidden from the killer. When they're unhooked, there is no notification and their hook status isn't revealed immediately. Right. So now not only do we deny killers crucial information regarding their power like condemn stack, pig head trap timers, Freddy sleep immunity, etc., but we're now denying game critical information from killers as a whole. Survivors get a full UI that tells them every single thing that's going on in the trial outside of anti-camp progress. Killers are having their UI literally lying to them. Unhook notifications tells the killer when things like deliverance are in use. If someone is unhooked, they can use healing time after an unhook to tell perks like resurgence or no when 2 people have gone for the unhook. All of this is critical information for the killer's macro game, and you've thrown it all out the window. Yet another complete disconnect the developers have from how killer is played, because the developers don't actually know how killer is played at an even slightly decent level because they've never actually gotten to it. Next we have an extra unhook effect called elusive, which is no grunt of pain, no scratch marks, no blood, and no aura. So now survivors of base kit BT, base kit unbreakable, base kit babysitter, and base kit off the record. I don't know behavior. I don't think we're holding the survivors' hands enough. How many more base kit perks are we going to give survivors before enough is enough? Honestly, in a vacuum with some killer buffs, this wouldn't be horrifically bad, but it's on top of everything else, and on top of already existing base kit perks. Next, we have one of the only good changes in the whole thing. People who come off the hook have no collision. This is fine, it prevents them from using their base kit anti-tunnel aggressively, which should have been in the game from the beginning. That being said, you know for a fact that this game will still auto-aim you onto the person with no collision, because behavior have still yet to actually address the issues with the auto-aim. Immunity to Killer Instinct and Wall Hack on the killer. The only effect in the whole game that had no counterplay for good reason, because it directly ties to killer powers and your powers should not be affected by anything. Killer Instinct on every killer is required for macro gameplay, and yet again it's been deleted because again the devs are clueless. Next we have incentives to not tunnel for killer. If you hook a new survivor, you get a mini Pop Goes the Weasel. Doesn't tell us the value, but Pop inherently favours faster mobility killers who can pressure easier, so the weaker killers won't benefit from this much. Temporary haste status effect. Again, no information. Could be decent, but it would need to be like 20% haste for a while for the weaker killers to properly feel the benefits. Base kit barbecue to survivors who are equal or less hooked, so it's easier to find the people you haven't already hooked. These effects are lowered for the stronger killers. So just talking about those tunneling changes overall, if we delete the Killer Instinct immunity, delete the unhook notification, and these numbers are actually passable, this could have been a very welcome change. Encourage killers to not tunnel by rewarding them for it, and make it harder to tunnel. But this is behavior, so they didn't stop there. They actually added more effects to punish you for tunneling. If a survivor dies before 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus.
Well, we're fucked.
If the survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed, generators cannot be regressed or blocked.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.
What you've done behavior is killed every single B tier killer and below in the game and forced everyone to run decent killers if they want to win against a survivor team who has a brain cell. Let's not even get into the confusing the killer by wearing the same skins and such. If you haven't got 6 hooks when you kill somebody, the survivors do their objective faster. 6 hooks is 2 people second stage and the other 2 people hooked once. To do this before you've lost every generator in the game means that you need consistent sub 30-second chases. This is not possible on the weaker killers, it's completely unviable. Not only this, but if you see someone second hook, they're basically immune before you've got 6 hooks, because if you slug them, they're going to get up on their own, and if you hook them, you'll buff the entire team, or at worst, completely remove your ability to pressure generators. What you're doing here is punishing the killer for playing the game. You now need to pick and choose who you hook. There's already 1,000,001 things to remember on killer, and you've just made it infinitely worse. Pig is also nerfed by these changes because now you're punished if you get a head trap kill and Sadako is completely dead. Sadako doesn't have a chase. Her power is killing people before you've hooked them twice. Matches against people with brain cells normally has you condemn someone at 1 to 2 generators remaining. As you can see in this background footage against good survivors, I have this Michaela condemned with 1 generator remaining at 3 hooks. This is your average Sadako match versus very good players, and this kill builds the pressure to get the win. Doing this now will allow all survivors to do gens quicker, so now you're punished for playing Sadako. Even worse, let's take this scenario. Ada has a tape and she's down with 6 stacks of condemned, so 1 more stack and she dies. Now the only way to destroy the tape in the current iteration and stop her cleansing is to hook her. However, if I hook her to break the tape so she can't cleanse, when she gets off the hook and I condemn her, I won't be allowed to kill her, because if I do, I then can't kick generators for the rest of the trial and they will get a gen speed bonus. So let's break it down real quick. So I'm trying to kill this Ada. I can't break the tape without hooking. If I don't hook, they'll get up with Unbreakable. If I kill them in this situation, the survivors are going to get a gen speed bonus. Okay, so I won't kill her, but then she cleanses. Okay, so I'll hook to break the tape. If I then condemn her off the hook, they'll get a gen speed bonus and all generators will be blocked. If I don't condemn her, she'll cleanse, making the initial hook pointless. So no matter what you do as a Sadako player, you get fucked. You get fucked for countering your power, you get fucked for using your power, and if you don't use your power or counter your power, you're going to get fucked by losing the game because you didn't use your power. So if these changes go through, I'm going to quit Sadako. Straight up, I'm not going to deal with it anymore. Not only this, if you play a B tier or below killer, you have two options. One, quit the game, or two, become a Blight/Nurse main, because against good survivors, that's going to be your only two options, because those are the only two characters who can consistently get 30-second chases. So congratulations, behavior. This is it. This is the Nurse by Daylight patch. You know these changes are bullshit. I know you know these changes are bullshit because you've given people the option to disable them in custom games, because if you didn't, comp DBD would be perkless survivor every single match. At this point, just make the game PvE, because you clearly don't give a shit about the killer players. If you want to salvage this, delay the anti-slug and do this to the anti-tunnel, and then we might actually have a half-passable update on our hands. But as it stands, you've killed the game. Anyway, that's all from me, gamers. Fucking behavior sucks dick at the job, what can I say?